Good morning, everyone. This is Ben Weisner, your host and presenter. Thank you for joining me for our webinar, Read Live's School to Home Connection. I'm a senior member of the Read Live team, and my job is to educate and support teachers and administrators who are using our programs. This morning, I'm going to provide you with some useful information about the tools and resources available within Read Live and on the Read Naturally website. This has been a challenging year for us all. And as the school year ends, we don't want our learners to experience even more learning loss due to summer slide. By having parents as partners, students who have been working in Read Live can have more support and continuity in their instruction. The information and resources I'll be sharing with you today will help your students take advantage of the reading opportunities available within Read Live, even during the summer months. It was apparent from the questions that came in that there are a variety of experience levels present today. So just a few remarks on what this webinar will focus on. This is not an introduction to the basics of the Read Live program. We have another webinar recording posted on our site that covers the basics. As the time allotted today is relatively short, I will not be responding to questions at the end of our webinar. But for those questions I don't answer within my presentation, we will try to add those to future presentations, point you to resources where you can find answers yourselves, or I'll follow up with you after the webinar ends. I've shared a copy of my slides and resource links in the meeting panel on your screen, as well as within the webinar email reminders. We'll continue to update these resources as conditions change and new information becomes available, and we'll make them available on our website as well. The links to resources are embedded in the PDF handout. All you need to do is to click on the blue underlined text to view or download more information. Many of you have asked about a recording of this webinar. I'll be sending out a follow-up email with links to the recording and the handouts with resources in about 24 hours. So look for that in your inbox tomorrow. Feel free to share the recording with anyone at your school or district who you think would benefit from this very valuable information. Also, at the end of our session, you'll be asked to provide us with feedback about today's webinar via a very short survey. If you could, please respond to the survey so we can continue to improve the webinar experience for all of you in the future. Finally, if you're having technical difficulties, please contact GoToWebinar support. Their phone number is listed at the bottom of the meeting panel. And now let's get started. As educators are adapting and have adapted to the distance learning requirements that have come before us over the past year, and as the summer comes into view, the school to home connection is more important than ever. We want students to continue to make progress toward becoming proficient readers. And there are a number of ways that Read Naturally bolsters and supports the school to home connection within Read Live. Some key reminders. We can enlist the help of parents as valuable partners as they support their students working in Read Naturally Live at home. Teachers need to clearly communicate the importance of the role of the parent as an assistant. And to be successful, teachers should provide information and links to resources to help parents understand what they are to do in the role of assistant. Just a reminder that when we're speaking about Read Live, we're speaking about 4 different programs. Read Naturally Live, Word Warm-Ups Live, 1 Minute Reader Live, and Read Naturally Live Espanol. In your handout, I've included this chart about choosing the appropriate program. For today's presentation, we'll be focusing on 2 programs. 1 Minute Reader Live, which I'll talk about towards the end of the presentation, and Read Naturally Live. The differences are primarily that 1 Minute Reader Live can be worked on by the student without significant parental or teacher support, whereas Read Naturally Live does require some support from teachers or parents during a couple of the steps, the cold timing step and the pass step. Before we get too far, a common question that we receive is, if students are working from home, how do they log in? Well, they'll need an appropriate device and an internet connection. An appropriate device would be a computer, such as a MacBook or an IBM computer, a Chromebook, or an iPad. They would go to the following address, readlive.readnaturally.com, or use a free iPad app, enter their credentials, and then when they're finished with their session, they will need to log out when done. So I'll demonstrate that very quickly for you. So if they're using a browser, they'll just click on the student button, enter in their credentials. They will need an 8-digit account ID, which is the same one that teachers would use to log in. When they log in, if they've been assigned to more than one program, they simply choose the program they want to work in.
Please select a story.
And when they're done with the session, they'll click on the logout button in the upper right-hand corner. So that's how they log in. So I've included some tips to help parents. I'll include more tips as we go along, but here's just a few for you. Primarily, they fall into the category of teaching parents how to use the program or about the program, providing them with resources, modifying settings as necessary, and then communicating with parents throughout the summer months, if you're going to choose to allow parents to use the program. The Student's Guide to Read Naturally Live can be found on our website, and I'll point you to that when we talk more about resources. I'll show you how to access PDF copies of the stories within the program. I'll also show you how to adjust story settings, story options to make changes for students to perhaps work more independently. And then again, you'll want to be able to communicate with parents throughout the summer, and I'll show you how to do that. We also have a variety of resources on our website to assist you with communicating to parents about how to motivate students. There's, of course, the intrinsic motivation that Read Live programs provide. There are progress monitoring tools. There's audio and visual displays, points, etc., that provide some intrinsic motivation. But there's, of course, extrinsic motivation as well, where you can provide some additional rewards, either by the teacher in the classroom or by the parent at home. We have many, many articles on our website that mention motivation, and you can just go up there and search for that word, and you'll find a variety of tips and suggestions from teachers and from Read Naturally as well. So let's talk about using Read Naturally Live at home. One of the ways that you can make that a little bit easier is to assign parents to an assistant role. Read Live provides you the ability to include an individual, like a parent, who can monitor their child at home to perform things like the pass activities or the cold timing step, etc. You have the option to create one assistant or many. I want to emphasize that it's important for you to not provide parents with your own password. Doing so could violate the privacy of other students that are enrolled in the program. It's typically the account administrator or the school coordinator who creates this role. It's not something that a teacher can do. So if you want that to happen, you'll need to communicate with your account administrator to do that. The things that the assistants can do are conduct timings and choose remedial actions, but they can't view or modify student data. When you do create assistants, you want to make sure that they are trained, and we have a variety of resources on our website to assist you with that and to discuss your own expectations for how students should work in the program with parental support. So what can assistants do? Primarily from within the student module, when students are logged in, they can conduct the cold timings and past activities. They can review student work. They can reset a story if a student is stuck within a story or wants to redo it. They can print stories and they can print awards. So let's take a look at how an assistant is created. As I said, it's typically the administrator or school coordinator who performs that task. So I'm going to log in as an administrator in my sample account. And this would happen in the staff member administration screen. So I'll click on that tile. And as you can see, I already have one assistant. And this screen shows you what tasks that an assistant can or can't do. To create an assistant, you simply click on Add Staff Member, complete this form, make sure that you select Read Live Assistant. You can select an individual school or all schools, and then simply enter in the assistant's email address and provide them with a user ID. They'll receive an email with login information, which I won't do that right now. And once they have an account, when they log into the staff member module, this is what they'll see. So they won't see the list of students. They won't be able to run reports or place students, but they will have access to some videos that will help them understand how the program works and resources on the left side. You also will have access to the waiting list feature, which I will not get into in this presentation, which is primarily useful for distance learning, but they do have access to that portion of the staff member module. The other things that assistants can do, as I said, is help a student work within the program. So for example, let's say I have a student who is in the cold timing step.
Play Wordtastic while you wait for your teacher. Click the best answer to score points. Click on the words you don't know to hear them read to you.
And if a student is working at home, the parent simply comes to the student's computer, clicks on Conduct Cold Timing, enters in their assistant credentials.
Click Start Timing and begin reading. Click on the words you don't know to hear them read to you. Click Finished if you finish reading before the bell sounds.
And then they would be able to conduct the student's cold timing as well as the past timing. Assistants also have access to the teacher menu. And from here, they can print stories, they can print awards, review work, reset stories, or reset timings. What they can't do,
click,
is change series level and goal or change story options. So those are the two tasks that they cannot perform. As far as supporting assistants, I've included some clickable links within your handout, including a video that's useful for providing an overview for assistants, as well as links to a student's guide to read naturally live video, our steps poster, and other resources on our website. Another thing that may be useful for you to do, the teacher to do, to assist parents, is to modify story options. Of course, you'll want to consider this carefully, as well as discuss that with the parent. But remember that an assistant cannot make this choice or make this happen. It has to be by the teacher or the account administrator. If you're adjusting story options, consider the long-term objective of students using Read Live and ensure that students are able to spend as much time as possible focused on developing the skills they'll need to be reading and comprehending at grade level. One of the things that we sometimes recommend is for a teacher to change the cold timing option from teacher required to student independent. So that means for that particular step, students can perform the cold timing without having to wait for a teacher, or in this case, a parent, to make that change. But as you can see, there are other options that you can change, including changing the number of read-alongs, changing the amount of time that students have for prediction and retell, etc. So the way that you would make that change as a teacher is log into the staff member module. And then in the Read Naturally Live screen, you would select the students or student that you'd want to make that change for. Click on the checkbox to the left of their name and click Change Story Options for selected. And as you can see, for this student, the cold timing has been changed to student independent from the default, which is teacher required. If you want to restore defaults, you simply click on this button and it will get you to the recommended defaults that Read Naturally recommends. So that's where you make that change. And we provided you with links to resources as well in your handout. The other thing that you'll want to make sure to do at the beginning of the summer and throughout is communicate with parents and also show parents where they can, or talk about some things like printing out awards, for example, or printing out stories from within the student module that they have access to if they've been added as an assistant. So again, if we go to the Read Naturally Live screen, this is where you, the teacher, can print out stories. You can print out any story or set of stories from any of our 3 series sequenced idioms and phonics. Printing out a story generates it as a PDF, which you can either then print or save out. And printed stories include the story text as well as the quiz questions, and in the phonics series, the word list. Other things that you can use for communication is printing out progress letters for parents to view, printing out welcome letters. You also have the ability to generate awards as printed awards, or you can email those awards to parents from within Read Naturally Live screen. If you have a student for whom you want to communicate with parents more easily, when you're creating their student record, or you can always modify and do this later, in each student record, there is a third column, which allows you to enter in 2 contacts with name and email, and that will allow you to email those contacts directly from within the program with certificates and awards. I have other resources that I'll share with you when we come near to the end of the presentation, including crossword puzzles and a variety of other useful videos, etc., that are on our Read Live help page on our website. And again, resource links directly within the presentation handout. So let's talk a little bit about Summer Slide. Now, before I do that, I want to emphasize that aside from Summer Slide, we've obviously been dealing with a lot of learning loss due to the pandemic. This is just a little bit of information from a recent research study by the Stanford Graduate School of Education that found that students' reading fluency in 2nd and 3rd grade has suffered significantly, up to 30% behind what would typically be expected in a normal year. Now, on top of that, we are needing to deal with summer slide. According to a Brookings Institute report, many students are typically start the following academic year with achievement levels lower than where they were at the beginning of summer break. So that's typical. The phenomenon is sometimes referred to as summer learning loss, summer setback, or summer slide. In a review of the research, students' achievement scores decline over summer vacation by 1 month's worth of school year learning on average. The summer slide contributes to a greater achievement gap. Research shows that this is especially true for historically disadvantaged student groups. Studies show that the extent of the loss is even larger at higher grade levels. And studies also show that programs used over the summer were more effective when they used research-based literacy instruction. Programs like Read Live that use instructional strategies identified by the National Reading Panel as best practices had the largest impact on students' reading comprehension scores. The faucet theory provides a hypothesis for why students experience summer slide. The resource faucet is on for all students during the school year, enabling all students to make learning gains. This is in a typical year, I should say. The resource faucet includes good teachers, strategic instruction, and effective programs. Over the summer, however, the flow of resources slows, especially for students from disadvantaged backgrounds, but not so much for students from advantaged backgrounds. Teachers can take steps to combat the slide. For example, encouraging parents and students to get to the library and participate in reading programs, communicating with students over the summer to provide encouragement to read, and assigning work over the summer. Many of the programs that teachers use in school have versions designed for families. Researchers suggest that if you use a digital teaching tool that you think moves the needle, see if parents can use a variation of that tool over the summer. Read Live has a program that is ideal for home use, 1 Minute Reader Live, that I'll describe momentarily. Before I do that, I want to briefly review some considerations for using Read Live at home over the summer. So if you'll be allowing your students to use Read Live and specifically Read Naturally Live at home over the summer, here are some considerations or caveats. So if students continue to use Read Naturally Live over the summer, they continue to work through the stories at a particular level, obviously those stories would be completed and they would quote unquote use up the curriculum. So that may or may not be something that you'd want to be concerned about. Unless there is some teacher intervention, students will have the same goal and be at the same level all summer. Remember, obviously, that most parents aren't trained educators as you are and may not respond in ways that maximize student progress when monitoring their students. And parents may be biased and scores may not be as accurate as they would be if a teacher would be monitoring students in the classroom. Some mitigations include discussing the plan of student work over the summer with the student's teacher for the following year, for the coming year. Monitoring student performance by checking reports periodically. Remember, you can check on reports at any time, even when student is not in school. And doing so after you've checked the reports and following some of our recommendations that you'll find on our website, you may need to change goals, levels, or story options. And of course, you can do that at any time. And then finally, training parents, communicating your expectations, and staying in contact over the summer. Those are all mitigations that will help students maximize their use of Read Naturally Live. And then, of course, 1 Minute Reader Live, which we added in March of 2021, just a few months ago. Actually, no, what is this, April, just last month. So 1 Minute Reader Live is a structured, independent program for reading practice for developing readers of all ages and without direct teacher involvement. It employs the same Read Naturally strategy that's used in our other programs, Read Naturally Live and Word Warm-Ups Live. And it focuses on improving fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. 1 Minute Reader Live is designed for readers of all ages who would benefit from structured independent reading. It's designed to motivate with informational text for reluctant readers. There's challenging reading material for young advanced readers. And it's perfect as additional work for students who are currently already working in Read Naturally Live. So 1 Minute Reader Live contains 6 levels from early reader to 5th grade. Currently, there are 4 books per level and 5 nonfiction stories per book, and we will, over time, continue to add additional books. There's interactive vocabulary, a quick quiz to support comprehension, and there are a variety of fun activities and a gamified experience for students. The primary difference, I mean, there are other differences, but the primary difference is that students work without direct teacher or over the summer without direct parent involvement. Students work independently within the program, choose their own books, levels. There's a placement program that students can take, which is optional, but they can move around within the program. So I'm going to quickly show you what that interface looks like when a student logs in to 1 Minute Reader. Actually, let me do it this way. So again, a student can be assigned to 1 or more programs. In this case, the student has access to both Read Naturally Live and 1 Minute Reader Live. And when they first come in, they can take a placement test or not.
Please select a book.
And again, they can move to any level that they want out of the 6 levels available. If they find a level or a story or book is too difficult for that, they can simply exit that book and start a different one.
Please select a story.
And again, very similar concept to the way Read Naturally Live works.
Click Start Timing and begin reading. Click on the words you don't know to hear them read to you. Click Finished if you finish reading before the bell sounds.
And I won't do an entire demo, but I just want to give you a sense for the interface. There are 4 steps that they complete. There are points that students can achieve after they complete specific tasks within the program. And as I said, they can always choose a different book or story if they wish.
Please select a story.
So if they don't like that story, they can choose a different one. If they don't like this book,
Please select a book.
they can choose a different book or level. So very easy to move around. So I provided you with some links to resources, including a set of videos and posters, fidelity checklist, etc. We just yesterday added a new resource that I will include in a follow-up email, which is a parent's letter, a letter that you can send home to parents introducing 1 Minute Reader Live to them. They can understand how that works. But of course, you can also share any of these resources that you see on this slide with them as well. And then as we wrap up here, I want to point you to our Read Live help page, which is on our website. You don't need to have a subscription to Read Live to use it. It's just readnaturally.com/read-live-help. And here you will find a number of videos that support teachers for all of our programs. And then on the right side, links to more resources, including recorded webinars. We have free training courses for all of the programs, Read Naturally Live, Word Warm-Ups Live, and 1 Minute Reader Live. Student training videos steps posters, fidelity checklists, etc. So I do encourage you to take a look at this page. I've included links in the PowerPoint presentation handout to many of the resources that you'll find on this page, but this is kind of the main stopping point, the main home page for Read Live resources, and I encourage you to take a look at that. So I see that we are near the end of our presentation, and I'm going to stop here and thank you for attending the webinar today. Just a reminder that we'll be sending out follow-up emails with links to the recording in about 24 hours, so please look for that in your inbox. Feel free to share the recording with anyone at your school or district. Also, if you could, please respond to the survey that will appear on your screen as you exit the webinar so we can continue to improve this educational experience for all of you in the future. Thanks again, everyone, and have a wonderful day.